During last night's Democratic debate, the topic of gun control came up, and they actually talked specifically about gun buyback programs for AR-15s. Now, one of the candidates, Beto O'Rourke, ended up getting a huge applause line when he said that he would be in favor of a mandatory gun buyback program for the very popular semi-automatic rifle. Now, that same rifle happens to be a favorite of some of the recent mass shooters. So now I'm going to show you what O'Rourke said, and then we're going to detail some threats against him. So let's take a look at that first.
Are you proposing taking away their guns, and how would this work?
I am, if it's a weapon that was designed to kill people on a battlefield. If the high impact, high velocity round, when it hits your body, shreds everything inside of your body because it was designed to do that so that you would bleed to death on a battlefield and not be able to get up and kill one of our soldiers. When we see that being used against children, and in Odessa, I met the mother of a 15-year-old girl who was shot by an AR-15, and that mother watched her bleed to death over the course of an hour because so many other people were shot by that AR-15 in Odessa and Midland. There weren't enough ambulances to get to them in time. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
All right, so look, that's a pretty strong moment from Beto O'Rourke. This is a disclaimer. No, I'm not in favor of Beto O'Rourke. I'm in favor of Bernie Sanders. But nonetheless, this was an excellent moment and probably Beto, one of his best moments of the night. So it was very, very strong. So now the meat of what he's saying, the policy that he's saying is basically let's bring back the assault weapons ban and do instead of, which is what Biden had done back in 94 when they did the first assault weapons ban. They said, okay, we're going to ban the sales of certain types of military style weapons, but we're going to let people keep them. O'Rourke says, no, we're not going to let you keep them. We're going to do a mandatory buyback program. So now, of course, it was mentioned by the moderator that was asking the question, that's basically gun confiscation. And in a way, that's actually true. We're going to take your guns, but we're going to pay you for them. Okay. So that's what it is, right? So now we had that back in the 90s, and it was fairly effective because it reduced the amount of people killed by gun violence. Now, this is according to analysis of publicly available data, right, which excludes armed robbery, gang, or domestic violence numbers in accordance to FBI standards. This is how the FBI calculates gun deaths, right? They found that compared with the decade before its adoption, the federal assault weapons ban, in effect from September 1994 through 2004, was associated with a 25% drop in gun massacres. Now, from back then, they only had 8 gun massacres to 6 gun massacres, and a 40% drop in fatalities from 81 people killed to 49. Now, again, that's very specific. And doesn't include, like I said, robbery, gang, or domestic violence, right? So this is specifically mass shootings, right? So now what we have in America now is we have a mass shooting every week. A mass shooting is considered to involve 4 or more people being killed. And now it happens literally all the time. So things are different than back then, right? So looking at the numbers and trying to extrapolate how it would be effective now, it would seem that it would be very effective. I mean, again, these weapons, they're not designed for the street. They're designed to kill lots and lots of people very quickly. One example of that. And by the way, this is kind of the point of the weapon. Like, why don't you, so those who are defending the use of this weapon, would you not agree that the whole purpose of these weapons is to kill people, whether it be in defense of your home or defense of your freedom? The whole point is to kill lots of people in a short amount of time. By the way, how short of amount of time? Well, in Ohio, there was a person that had a AR-15 and with a 100 round drum. So the police had arrived to that shooting within 1 minute. 9 people were already dead. 9 people. So look, it's very effective at doing what it's supposed to do. Kill people, right? That's the point. I don't agree that we should have weapons like that on the street, so I agree with Beto O'Rourke on this case. Now, I know people are going to flip out, right? Don't worry, guys. You still have handguns. You still have shotguns. You still have the right to self-defense. You still have the right to conceal carry pistols. You are more than capable of dealing with home defense or a potential thief or rapist or whatever. You still have that ability under the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment doesn't mean you can have any weapon you choose, because obviously we've banned machine guns. Obviously, we've banned civilian ownership of mortars and bazookas and tanks. I mean, so there is a way that you can also do a ban on what they call assault weapons, and still protect the Second Amendment. Because believe it or not, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in the ability for people to, be armed and defend themselves or their homes. Although, even though I know factually that people with guns in the homes are more likely to end up being killed by that same weapon, oh well. I guess that's the price of freedom. But the price of having a freedom for these assault style weapons, these military style weapons, is really high. It's way too high now. And so there's a problem here. Okay. So now a Republican congressman, he decided to weigh in. This Briscoe Kane, right? Texas Republican. Now he said, in response to Mr. O'Rourke, quote, "My AR is ready for you, Robert Francis." Now look, I don't know. That kind of sounds like a threat to me. And not a good look. So now the response to this tweet was pretty swift. Not only was it deleted because it contained an actual threat, but before that, when it was up for about 3 hours, it was heavily ratioed. 3,400 people had commented on the post and just 89 have retweeted it. So ratios, of course, when you get far more comments than you do likes or retweets. So it generally tends to mean that the people who are responding to you are freaking angry. Okay. So now O'Rourke also responded to this tweet by saying, "This is a death threat, Representative. Clearly, you shouldn't own an AR-15, and neither should anyone else." Oh, damn. To which Kane had responded, "You're a child." Well, what a comeback. Totally adult and responsible. Of course. Okay, so now first, he makes this threat, right? And the threat is whenever you talk about gun control, right? Whenever you talk about gun reform, whenever you talk about assault weapons bans, whatever, right? It's the same thing. Come and get it. Oh, so if somebody comes and tries to get it, you're going to shoot them. And that's essentially what you're saying. Now, I love the whole idea that, and I don't quite understand how they can square this in their own heads. They say they're pro-police. They say they're pro-military. They say they're pro-law enforcement, right? Except that they threaten those very same people if they enforce a law that they don't like. They say the government is forcing you to do things at the point of a gun, right? I hear that all the time from libertarians and conservatives. Oh, they're just forcing you to do this at the point of a gun. It's also part of being society. I mean, if you don't want to be a part of society, I guess you can go live in the mountains by yourself. But if you're still living in the continental United States, then the laws still apply to you. So you would have to leave the United States and go live in a place that isn't claimed by anybody. But finally, you could be your own sovereign citizen and do whatever the hell you want. Hey, but at least you wouldn't be living at the point of the gun. That's part of being in a society. So, but it's funny because they say that, and yet at the same time, they're kind of the ones doing that, almost literally. Now, I'm not saying all Republicans, right? Of course not. In fact, there's a lot of Republicans that make a lot of sense that agree with gun reform. In fact, you have, according to a recent, this was done last month, about 2,000 respondents. So it's a fairly decent sample size as sample sizes go. And it's only just one poll, let's be fair. But they found that 7 in 10 voters, including 54% of Republicans, actually support a ban on assault-style weapons. I guess all these mass shootings have finally gotten to them. And they say, you know what? It's not worth it. I still have all my other guns. We'll let this one go. Okay. Now, even higher percentages supported a ban on high-capacity magazines and a purchase age of at least 21. Now, I don't think the purchase age will do anything, but whatever. So, look, point is, actually, there's a lot of people that are okay with this. Now, according to this one poll. Now, again, the other stuff, the other gun reform, measures actually do support or do have majority support, very broad support among both Republicans, Democrats, Independents, etc. Wide majority of people, and also have consistently polled this way, and that's federal background checks for all gun purchases. Okay, we could. Why not start with that? All right, we'll do the minimum. Even Donald Trump, before he gets talked to by Wayne LaPierre, says, "Oh yeah, we'll do background checks." And then LaPierre sits him down, has a little talk, and then suddenly, oh, background checks won't do anything. But anyway, back to Mr. Kane, right? So Mr. Kane got a little bit of trouble for this. In fact, he's getting looked into by the FBI. Interesting. But he has a history of tweeting out ridiculous things. In fact, he says, quote, "I get ratioed in the reg." Basically says he regularly gets ratioed. Oh, well, lovely. Great. It's probably because you're an asshole. I mean, if you say ridiculous things and make threats against people, then yeah, you're going to get a lot of people that are angry at you. And he, to be fair, he probably loves it because that's the whole point. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.